Tastes like blood.
Yep.
Vietnam is where the unexpected is only the beginning. From a dish made with raw blood to boarding a flight where bikinis are the uniform and liquor with a snake coiled inside, these strange realities aren't just stories. They're Vietnam's wildest secrets. Join us as we reveal the strange things that only happen in Vietnam. Number 17. Navigating the motorcycle madness. Imagine a sea of motorbikes, a never-ending stream of two-wheeled vehicles weaving in and out of traffic like a well-choreographed dance. Welcome to the streets of Vietnam, where the sheer number of motorcycles on the roads is enough to make even the most seasoned driver break a sweat. With over 72 million motorcycles in the country, it's no wonder that traffic in Vietnam can be described as nothing short of chaotic. In cities like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, the roads are a constant buzz of activity, with motorcycles outnumbering cars by a significant margin. It's not uncommon to see entire families precariously balanced on a single bike, navigating through the maze of vehicles with practiced ease. But it's not just the number of motorcycles that makes traffic in Vietnam so unique. It's the way they move. Motorcycles seem to have a language of their own, a secret code that allows them to communicate with each other through a series of honks, swerves, and sudden stops. It's a language that can be difficult for outsiders to understand, but one that is essential for survival on the roads. For tourists, crossing the street can be a daunting task. The key is to walk slowly and predictably, allowing the motorcycles to weave around you like water flowing around a rock. It's a leap of faith, but one that is necessary if you want to experience the vibrant street life of Vietnam's cities. Number 16. A smoking culture steeped in traditio. Tobacco smoking is part of many cultures, but Vietnam offers a distinctive twist. Here, you'll find a tradition passed down through generations: rustic tobacco smoking. This practice is deeply ingrained in Vietnamese culture, a ritual that not only brings people together, but also provides a moment of respite from the daily grind. The tobacco used in rustic smoking is a far cry from the mass-produced cigarettes found in most parts of the world. It's a unique specialty found only in Vietnam, cultivated and processed using methods that have been honed over centuries. The result is a tobacco that is rich in flavor and aroma, with a smooth smoke that is savored by locals and visitors alike. But it's not just the tobacco that makes rustic smoking so special. It's the way it's consumed. In Vietnam, smoking is often a social activity, a time to gather with friends and family and share stories over a pipe. The pipes themselves are works of art, intricately carved from bamboo or other local materials and passed down from father to son. And for those who prefer a more modern smoking experience, Vietnam has that covered too. With packs of cigarettes costing around $1, smoking is an affordable pastime for many Vietnamese. However, while the price may be low, the cost to public health is high. Vietnam has one of the highest smoking rates in the world, with over half of all men in the country regularly lighting up. Number 15. 100 surnames. Shakespeare once famously asked, "What's in a name?" But in Vietnam, the answer to that question is a bit more complex than anyone might have imagined. Because in this country of nearly 100 million people, only about 100 surnames are commonly used. That might not seem like a big deal at first glance. After all, many cultures around the world have a relatively small pool of family names to draw from. But in Vietnam, the limited number of surnames is more than just a curiosity. It's a reflection of the country's unique history and culture, and a source of both pride and frustration for many Vietnamese. So how did Vietnam end up with such a small number of surnames? The answer lies in the country's complex past, which has been shaped by centuries of Chinese influence and Confucian tradition. In ancient times, Vietnamese people often took on the surnames of their Chinese rulers or adopted names that reflected their social status or occupation. Over time, these names became codified and passed down through the generations, creating a relatively small pool of family names that are still in use today. The most common surname in Vietnam is Nguyen, which is shared by an estimated 40% of the population. Other popular names include Tran, Lê, Pham, and Hoang, each of which is borne by millions of Vietnamese people. But while having a common surname can create a sense of kinship and shared identity, it can also lead to confusion and frustration in daily life. Number 14. A raucous farewell. Death is a solemn occasion in most parts of the world, a time for quiet reflection and mourning. But in Vietnam, funerals are anything but subdued. In fact, they're often a raucous celebration of life, complete with live music, dancing, and even professional mourners. If you find yourself near a Vietnamese funeral, you'll likely hear it before you see it. The sound of drums, cymbals, and horns fills the air, signaling to all who can hear that a loved one has passed on. But this isn't a somber dirge. Instead, it's a lively and upbeat tune designed to honor the deceased and guide their spirit to the afterlife. Inside the funeral home, the atmosphere is just as lively. Family and friends gather around the casket, offering prayers and burning incense. But they're also sharing stories and memories of the departed, often with laughter and tears in equal measure. And then there are the professional mourners. These are women, and sometimes men, who are hired by the family to express their grief in the most dramatic way possible. They wail and sob, beat their chests, and sometimes even throw themselves on the ground in a display of anguish. To an outsider, it can seem over the top and even a bit comical, but for the Vietnamese, it's a way to show respect for the dead and to help the family express their own grief. Number 13. Daring delicacies. Just when you thought you'd seen it all in the world of gastronomy, Vietnam enters the chat with a lineup of dishes that are as terrifying as they are intriguing. Brace yourself for a culinary adventure that's not for the faint of heart. First up on the menu, coconut worms. These squirmy little critters, known locally as Duong Dua, are a specialty of the Mekong Delta region. Harvested from the trunks of coconut trees, these worms are often enjoyed raw, still wriggling, as a crunchy, protein-packed snack. If that's not quite your speed, you can also find them grilled, fried, or even soaked in fish sauce for an extra kick of flavor. But wait, there's more. If you're in the mood for something a little more sanguine, then blood pudding might be just the ticket. This traditional dish is made by mixing raw blood, usually from ducks or geese, with minced meat, herbs, and peanuts. The concoction is then served with a side of Vietnamese coriander and a generous pour of fish sauce. It's a rich, iron-packed dish that's not for the squeamish. And let's not forget about the infamous balut. This delicacy, which is also popular in the Philippines, is a fertilized duck egg that's boiled and eaten straight from the shell. Crack it open, and you'll find a partially developed duck embryo, complete with feathers, bones, and a beak. It's a textural experience like no other, and a rite of passage for any adventurous foodie worth their salt. Number 12. A fusion of faiths. Vietnam's Chao Dai religion demonstrates an unconventional approach to faith. Founded in the early 20th century, it blends various beliefs, challenging typical notions of spiritual boundaries. This syncretic faith reflects Vietnam's capacity for religious innovation and coexistence, offering a counterpoint to global narratives of religious conflict. At its core, Chao Dai is a mix of Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, Christianity, and Islam. It's a faith that seeks to find common ground between these seemingly disparate beliefs, creating a new religion that is greater than the sum of its parts. The name Cao Dai itself means high tower, symbolizing the idea of reaching for spiritual enlightenment. But what sets Cao Dai apart from other syncretic religions is its eclectic pantheon of saints and figures. In addition to the Buddha, Jesus Christ, and Prophet Muhammad, Cao Dai also venerates figures like Joan of Arc, Victor Hugo, and even Sun Yat-sen, the first president of the Republic of China. It's a diverse and inclusive approach to spirituality that reflects Vietnam's own history of cultural exchange and adaptation. Cao Dai temples are a sight to behold, with their brightly colored and intricately decorated altars featuring images of the various saints and deities. The religion's adherents, known as Cao Daists, follow a strict moral code that emphasizes nonviolence, vegetarianism, and the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. Number 11. A toast to personal freedom. When it comes to alcohol consumption, Vietnam marches to the beat of its own drum. In stark contrast to many countries around the world, Vietnam has no legal drinking age. That's right, you heard that correctly. Whether you're 18 or 80, you're free to imbibe as you please in this Southeast Asian nation. But before you start picturing a country overrun with drunken debauchery, it's important to note that Vietnam's approach to alcohol is a bit more nuanced than it may seem at first glance. While there's no legal age limit, there are still social and cultural norms that dictate when and how alcohol is consumed. In Vietnam, drinking is often seen as a social lubricant, a way to build relationships and celebrate important occasions. It's not uncommon for business deals to be sealed over a few glasses of rice wine, or for friends to gather at a draft beer stall after work to unwind and catch up. But this doesn't mean that Vietnam is a nation of heavy drinkers. In fact, according to the World Health Organization, Vietnam has one of the lowest rates of alcohol consumption in Southeast Asia, with an average of just 6.6 liters per person per year. So what's the secret to Vietnam's success in keeping alcohol consumption in check without strict legal restrictions? It's hard to say for sure, but some experts point to the country's strong emphasis on family values and social responsibility. In Vietnam, getting drunk and causing a scene is seen as a serious breach of etiquette and can bring shame upon oneself and one's family. Number 10. Snakes in a bottle. Picture this. You're perusing the shelves of a local liquor store in Vietnam when a glint of light catches your eye. You lean in for a closer look and find yourself face to face with a coiled serpent, its beady eyes staring back at you from inside a bottle of clear liquid. Welcome to the world of snake wine. This traditional Vietnamese liquor is not for the faint of heart. The process of making it is as intriguing as it is unsettling. A venomous snake, usually a cobra or a viper, is carefully captured and placed into a bottle of rice wine or grain alcohol. The snake is then left to steep in the liquid for several months, infusing the alcohol with its essence and, some believe, its medicinal properties. The result is a potent elixir that's said to cure everything from back pain to hair loss. Some even claim that it's an aphrodisiac, though the science behind that is a bit murky. What's not murky, however, is the appearance of the finished product. The snake, often with its mouth agape and its fangs bared, floats in the bottle like some kind of prehistoric specimen in formaldehyde. But snake wine is more than just a novelty item or a conversation starter. It's a deeply ingrained part of Vietnamese culture, particularly in the rural areas where snakes are more abundant. In fact, snake wine has been consumed in Vietnam for centuries, with some historians tracing its origins back to the reign of King Le Thanh Tong in the 15th century. Today, snake wine is still widely available throughout Vietnam, though its production and sale are subject to strict regulations. Many traditional medicine shops and souvenir stores stock bottles of the stuff, often with the snake still inside. Some high-end restaurants even offer snake wine as a specialty drink, served in small glasses and sipped slowly to savor the complex flavors and aromas. Number 9. The Bikini Airline. When it comes to marketing stunts, few companies can hold a candle to Vietjet Air. This plucky Vietnamese airline, founded in 2007, has made a name for itself with its cheeky branding, rock-bottom fares, and, most notably, its bikini-clad flight attendants. Yes, you heard that right. In a move that's been alternately praised as a stroke of marketing genius and denounced as a blatant objectification of women, Vietjet has made a habit of dressing its female flight attendants in revealing bikinis for special events and promotions. It all started back in 2012, when the airline launched a controversial campaign featuring models in skimpy swimsuits. The ads caused a stir in conservative Vietnam, but they also got people talking. And for Vietjet, that was exactly the point. Since then, the airline has continued to push the envelope with its marketing. In 2012, it made headlines again when it sent a group of bikini-clad models onto the tarmac to greet a new aircraft. The stunt landed Vietjet in hot water with Vietnamese authorities, who fined the airline for violating aviation regulations. But despite the occasional misstep, Vietjet's provocative branding seems to be working. The airline has grown rapidly in recent years, becoming one of the most profitable carriers in Southeast Asia. It has received a fair amount of backlash from those who point out that its success comes at the cost of its employees' dignity, and that many of its tactics are just objectification. However, it seems Vietjet has found a formula that resonates with many consumers. Number 8. Caffeine with a twist. When it comes to coffee, Vietnam is a country that takes its brew seriously. But while the Vietnamese certainly appreciate a classic cup of joe, they also have a knack for putting their own unique spin on the beloved beverage. Take, for example, the phenomenon of weasel coffee, also known as cha phe chon or kopi luwak. This specialty coffee is made from beans that have been eaten, digested, and excreted by the Asian palm civet, a small, cat-like creature native to Southeast Asia. The idea is that the civet's digestive enzymes break down the coffee beans, removing some of the bitterness and adding a smooth, almost nutty flavor to the finished product. But before you turn up your nose at the thought of drinking coffee that's been through a weasel's gut, consider this. Weasel coffee is one of the most expensive and sought-after coffees in the world, with prices ranging from $100 to $600 per pound. It's also incredibly labor-intensive to produce, as the civet droppings must be carefully collected, cleaned, and roasted to perfection. If the idea of weasel coffee is a little too wild for your taste, fear not. Vietnam has plenty of other coffee creations to tempt your palate. One of the most popular is egg coffee, or cha phi trung. This rich, creamy concoction is made by whipping egg yolks with condensed milk and sugar until they form a frothy, meringue-like foam. The mixture is then poured over a shot of strong black coffee and served hot, often with a sprinkle of cocoa powder on top. The result is a drink that's part coffee, part dessert, and wholly delicious. The egg foam adds a luxurious texture and a subtle sweetness to the coffee, while the condensed milk provides a caramel-like depth of flavor. It's the perfect pick-me-up on a chilly Hanoi morning, or a decadent treat to savor after a long day of sightseeing. Number 7. Uncle Ho's Eternal Rest. The Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum towers over Hanoi, housing the preserved body of the nation's beloved leader. Millions flock yearly to this communist shrine, where history and devotion collide in the capital's epicenter. Ho Chi Minh, affectionately known as Uncle Ho, was the driving force behind Vietnam's struggle for independence from French colonial rule. A revolutionary statesman and a poet, Ho Chi Minh dedicated his life to the cause of national liberation and the betterment of his people. When he died in 1969, at the age of 79, the Vietnamese people mourned the loss of a true giant of their history. But even in death, Uncle Ho remains a powerful presence in Vietnam. His body, carefully preserved and displayed in a glass sarcophagus, is watched over by a military honor guard 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Visitors to the mausoleum must dress respectfully and maintain a solemn demeanor as they file past the body, paying their respects to the man who shaped the course of their country's destiny. The decision to preserve Ho Chi Minh's body was not without controversy. Some argued that it went against his wishes for a simple cremation, while others saw it as a fitting tribute to a man who had given so much to his country. But regardless of one's personal views, there's no denying the powerful symbolism of the mausoleum and the role it plays in Vietnamese national identity. Number 6. A subterranean wonderland. Deep beneath Vietnam's lush jungles lies a hidden world that defies belief. A place where underground rivers carve through ancient rock formations, where colossal caverns soar to dizzying heights, and where a lost world of unique species thrives in the eternal darkness. This is Jong Cave, the largest cave system on the planet. Discovered in 1991 by a local farmer, but not fully explored until 2009, Son Jong is a relatively new addition to the world's geological marvels. But what it lacks in fame, it more than makes up for in sheer size and grandeur, stretching over 5.5 miles in length. With caverns that could comfortably fit a 40-story skyscraper, Son Jong is a place that seems to defy the very laws of nature. But Son Jong is more than just a big hole in the ground. It's a complex and dynamic ecosystem with its own unique weather patterns, flora, and fauna. Gigantic stalagmites and stalactites, some over 230 feet tall, adorn the cave's interior, while rare cave pearls and other worldly rock formations glitter in the ghostly light. And then there are the cave's inhabitants, from blind, translucent fish to giant millipedes and cave-dwelling arachnids. Son Jong is home to an array of creatures that have evolved to thrive in the perpetual darkness. But perhaps the most striking feature of Son Jong is its underground jungle. Yes, you heard that right. In a colossal cavern known as the Garden of Eden, a lush tangle of trees, shrubs, and vines grows in the filtered light that streams through a massive sinkhole in the cave's roof. It's a sight that seems to belong to a science fiction novel rather than the real world. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. Vietnam is a land of breathtaking beauty, with both its men and women admired for their charming looks. But beyond appearances, the Vietnamese are known for their kindness, politeness, and warm hospitality. To experience this firsthand, simply strike up a conversation with a local, and you'll quickly find yourself immersed in a world of genuine smiles, helpful gestures, and heartfelt kindness. It's a hospitality that runs deep in Vietnamese culture, rooted in the belief that every guest is a treasured friend. Whether you're lost in the bustling streets of Hanoi or exploring a remote village in the countryside, you'll be greeted with open arms and a willingness to help that's truly humbling. Tourists often speak highly of their friendly nature. Have you ever experienced Vietnam yourself? Let us know in the comments. Number 5. Life on the water. In the murky waters of the Mekong Delta, a unique way of life has flourished for generations. Here, in the maze of rivers, canals, and streams that crisscross this vast region, floating markets reign supreme. The Mekong Delta is a region of superlatives. Spanning over 1,500 square miles, it's home to over 20 million people and produces more than a third of Vietnam's total agricultural output. But what really sets the Mekong Delta apart is its relationship with water. In a region where the line between land and sea is blurred, life revolves around the ebb and flow of the mighty Mekong River. and nowhere is this relationship more apparent than in the region's floating markets. These vibrant gatherings are a feast for the senses, a kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and smells that seem to defy description. Imagine dozens of boats piled high with fresh produce, jostling for position in the early morning light. Vendors hawk their wares in sing-song voices while buyers haggle for the best deals. The air is thick with the scent of ripe fruit, sizzling meat, and fragrant herbs. But the floating markets are more than just a place to buy and sell goods. They're a way of life, a cultural tradition that has been passed down through generations. For the people of the Mekong Delta, the markets are a social hub, a place to catch up on gossip, exchange news, and strengthen community bonds. Number 4. Silk spinners. From luxurious textiles to creepy-crawly snacks, the humble silkworm plays an outsized role in Vietnamese culture and cuisine. These unassuming little creatures, long prized for their ability to spin glossy cocoons of raw silk, have been an integral part of Vietnam's agricultural and economic landscape for centuries. The process of silk production is a fascinating one, and it all starts with the silkworm. These plump, white caterpillars are the larval form of the silk moth, and they have a voracious appetite for mulberry leaves. As they munch away, they grow larger and larger until they're ready to spin their cocoons. This is where the magic happens. Using specialized glands in their heads, the silkworms produce a fine, sticky filament that they wrap around themselves in a figure-8 pattern. The result is a small, oval-shaped cocoon made up of a single, continuous strand of raw silk that can stretch up to 3,000 feet in length. But the silkworm's usefulness doesn't end there. In a strange twist of fate, these humble spinners also end up on the menu in many parts of Vietnam. Silkworm pupae, still encased in their cocoons, are a popular snack food, often fried or roasted with spices and served as a crunchy, protein-packed treat. Number 3. Matchmaking Reinvented. When it comes to matters of the heart, Vietnam is a country that's full of surprises, and perhaps no cultural tradition is quite as surprising and efficient as the Vietnamese approach to speed dating. Forget swiping right or awkward coffee shop meetups. In Vietnam, the art of lightning-fast romance has been elevated to a whole new level. It's called Toc Hen, which translates roughly to speed dating, and it's a phenomenon that's taken the country by storm. The concept is simple. A group of singles gathers in a room, armed with nothing but their charm and a few key facts about themselves. They're then given a scant few minutes to chat with each potential match before moving on to the next. At the end of the night, they indicate their preferences, and the organizers work their magic to pair up the most compatible couples. But what sets Vietnamese speed dating apart from its Western counterparts is the sheer efficiency of the process. While speed dating events in the US or Europe might give participants a luxurious 5 or even 7 minutes to make a connection, Toc Hen events often whittle that down to a mere 3 minutes or less. It's a pace that might make some people's heads spin, but for many young Vietnamese singles, it's a welcome alternative to the often prolonged courtship rituals of traditional dating. In a society where family and societal expectations can place a heavy burden on romantic relationships, the quick-fire nature of Toc Hen offers a refreshing sense of levity and spontaneity. Number 2. The artistry of Daau. Daau, a traditional Vietnamese sport, captivates players and spectators alike in the country's northern regions. On makeshift courts, participants showcase their agility and precision, kicking a feathered shuttlecock back and forth over a net. This centuries-old game requires no hands, only swift footwork and keen spatial awareness. While unfamiliar to many outside Vietnam, Daau embodies the nation's sporting heritage, blending physical prowess with cultural significance. At first glance, Daau may look similar to badminton or volleyball, but upon closer inspection, it becomes clear that this is a game in itself. Instead of using rackets or their hands, players use their feet, knees, and heads to keep the shuttlecock in play. The shuttlecock itself is unique, made from a small piece of metal or coin attached to a cluster of colorful feathers. But Daau is more than just a game. It's a celebration of Vietnamese culture. Watching a match of Daau is like watching a dance, with players moving in perfect synchronization as they work to keep the shuttlecock aloft. The origins of Daau are somewhat murky, but it is believed to have originated in Vietnam's Red River Delta region over 1,000 years ago. Originally played by the royal court, the game eventually spread to the masses, becoming a beloved pastime for people of all ages and backgrounds. Number 1. A haven of biodiversity. In the heart of Vietnam's rugged central region, a lush oasis of biodiversity bustles with life. This is Bac Ma National Park, a sprawling expanse of dense forests, cascading waterfalls, and mist-shrouded peaks that are home to an astonishing array of flora and fauna. Covering more than 54,000 acres, Bac Ma is a treasure trove of ecological wonders. The park's varied landscapes, which range from lowland tropical forests to montane evergreen forests and even a rare dwarf coniferous forest, are home to over 1,400 species of plants, many of which are found nowhere else on Earth. But it's the park's wildlife that truly steals the show. Bac Ma is home to an incredible 132 species of mammals, including rarities like the Truong Son muntjac, a type of small deer, the red-shanked Duc longueur, and the elusive black-crested gibbons, whose haunting calls echo through the forest at dawn. And then there are the birds. Bac Ma is a veritable birdwatcher's paradise, with over 350 species recorded within the park's borders. From the brilliant blue-rumped peter to the majestic crested Argus pheasant, the park is a riot of color and song that's sure to delight any avian enthusiast. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.